Hello, everyone. Today we're going to explain the ending of the Dog Stars and what really happened to Hig, Cima, Pops, Bangley, and the mysterious world they discover after the pandemic. Before we continue, here's your spoiler alert. This video contains major spoilers for the ending, Jasper's fate, the events at Grand Junction, Bangley's survival, and what the final scenes could mean. So, what actually happens at the end of the Dog Stars? To understand the ending, we first need to understand Hig's journey. After a devastating pandemic wipes out most of humanity, Hig survives at an abandoned Colorado airport with his dog Jasper and Bangley, a heavily armed former military man. The two men have completely different ideas about survival. Bangley believes the safest thing to do is stay inside their fortified home, protect their supplies, and assume that almost everyone outside is dangerous. Hig understands the danger, but he can't completely accept that this is all life has become. Even after losing his wife and watching civilization collapse, he still believes there might be something beyond simply surviving from one day to the next. That hope becomes stronger when Hig begins picking up a mysterious radio transmission from somewhere around Grand Junction. The signal suggests that other people may still be alive and communicating. For Hig, this is more than just a radio signal. It's proof that the world might not be completely dead. Eventually, Hig decides to leave the airport and investigate. But before he can begin that journey, tragedy strikes. Jasper is killed while protecting Hig during an attack. This is one of the most important moments in the story because Jasper isn't simply Hig's dog. He's Hig's closest companion and one of the last remaining connections to his old life. Jasper represents loyalty, comfort, and the part of Hig that still believes life can be meaningful. After Jasper's death, Hig is forced to confront just how empty his existence has become. He has food, he has weapons, he has a plane, but he's losing the reasons to use any of them. So Hig finally leaves the airport. During his journey, he meets Cima and her father, Pops. At first, they don't completely trust each other. Pops is protective of Cima and has every reason to be suspicious of strangers in a world where violence has become normal. But Hig slowly earns their trust. And Cima becomes especially important. She gives Hig something he hasn't had since the world ended: hope. Their relationship develops slowly, but Cima represents the possibility of a future. She doesn't erase Hig's memories of his wife, and she doesn't replace Jasper. Instead, she gives him a reason to stop living entirely in the past. Eventually, Hig, Cima, and Pops travel toward Grand Junction because they believe the radio transmission could lead them to a community of survivors. But what they discover is much stranger than they expected. Grand Junction is controlled by Darlene. She has created a bizarre community based heavily on nostalgia. Everything is designed to remind people of the world before the pandemic. Old-fashioned clothes, old music, old decorations, old ideas. At first, the community looks almost peaceful. After everything Hig has experienced, the idea of a safe settlement seems like exactly what he needs. But it quickly becomes clear that Darlene's world comes with a price. Her community is built around control. She isn't really rebuilding civilization. She's creating her own fantasy version of the past and expecting everyone around her to accept it. And that's an important contrast with Hig. Bangley believes survival requires isolation, weapons, and suspicion. Darlene believes the answer is recreating the old world. But Hig doesn't want either extreme. He doesn't want to spend the rest of his life hiding behind weapons. And he doesn't want to pretend that the old world can simply be recreated. He wants something real. Eventually, Hig leaves Grand Junction and returns to Erie. But when he arrives, he discovers that the airport has been attacked. The place where he once felt safest has been badly damaged. For a moment, it appears that Bangley may have been killed. But then Hig discovers that Bangley survived. He's badly injured, but he's alive. And Cima is able to treat him. This is where the emotional meaning of the ending becomes clear. At the beginning of the story, Hig has almost no one. He has Bangley, but their relationship is mostly built around survival. He has Jasper, who is eventually taken from him, and he has memories of the family and life he lost. By the end, everything has changed. Hig has Cima. he has Pops, and Bangley is still alive. They aren't rebuilding the old world. They're creating something new. And that's the real meaning of the ending. Hig begins the story believing survival means protecting whatever little he has left. But throughout his journey, he realizes that survival without connection isn't enough. You can have food, you can have weapons, you can have a secure shelter. But if there's no one to share your life with, what are you actually surviving for? That's why Jasper's death is so important. It is devastating for Hig, but it also pushes him out of the isolated life he had created. Jasper was the last piece of Hig's old life that remained beside him. Once Jasper is gone, Hig has to decide whether he's going to continue living in the past or take a chance on something new. And that's exactly what Cima represents, a future. She doesn't replace Hig's life. She doesn't make the pandemic disappear. She doesn't undo everything that happened. Instead, she helps Hig understand that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting what happened and still choosing to live. There's also an important detail in the final scenes that raises another question. Hig sees aircraft flying in the distance. He tries to communicate with them, but he doesn't receive a clear response. The movie doesn't tell us exactly who those people are, and that's deliberate. The aircraft suggests that Hig and the others may not be the only survivors left. There could be other organized communities somewhere beyond their immediate world. Maybe civilization is slowly beginning to return. Maybe those aircraft belong to a group that could eventually find them. Or perhaps they represent something more uncertain. The important thing is that Hig finally has evidence that the world may still contain other people. And that changes the meaning of his future. He's no longer trapped in a world that feels completely empty. There is still uncertainty. There is still danger. But there is also possibility. That's why the movie doesn't end with humanity suddenly rebuilding civilization. It would be too easy. Instead, the ending gives Hig something smaller and more meaningful. A family, a home, and a reason to keep going. The world is still broken. The pandemic hasn't been magically reversed. The old civilization is gone. And there is no guarantee that Hig, Cima, Pops, and Bangley will be safe forever. But Hig has finally stopped asking how he can simply survive. He's asking what kind of life he can build. And that is a huge change from the person we meet at the beginning. So what really happened at the end of the Dog Stars? Hig returns to Erie with Cima and Pops. They discover that Bangley survived the attack. Cima helps treat his injuries, and the group begins moving forward together. The mysterious aircraft in the sky suggests that other survivors may still exist, leaving the future deliberately uncertain. But emotionally, Hig has already found his answer. He isn't simply surviving anymore, he's living. The apocalypse destroyed the world Hig knew, but it didn't destroy his ability to build a new one. And that's why the ending is ultimately hopeful. It doesn't promise that everything will be okay. It simply shows that even after the world ends, people can still find love, friendship, family, and a reason to continue. So, what did you think of the ending? Do you think the aircraft suggests that organized civilization is beginning to return? Or do you think those mysterious survivors could become something more dangerous? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this ending breakdown, don't forget to subscribe for more movie explanations, sci-fi stories, and ending breakdowns. Because sometimes surviving the end of the world isn't the hardest part. The hardest part is finding a reason to keep living